Hi, some people have asked for my experience with schizophrenia, my recovery, how I got through it. Well, one person asked that in my YouTube comments recently, actually a little while ago. I don't get to my YouTube comments as fast as I'd like. Sorry about that. I went through a whole bunch of them, some as long as 3 weeks ago, but I do read all of them when they come up. I get email alerts as soon as they happen, and I read them. But yeah, I will try to do better at responding to them more faster. But for the person who said, and thanks for comments anyway, I really appreciate that. I love reading them and I love answering them. It just takes me a bit to get back to them, to formulate an answer. I like to put some thought into my answers as best I can. And I know schizophrenia is a heavy subject, so sometimes it's I don't it I just want to put more thought into it because it's serious. People can really suffer with it. So it's yeah. Anyway, for my recovery, for to answer you, I my recovery. I got diagnosed at 22. I went to get help. I voluntarily did that. I went to get help my first year of university. I was low on energy my first year, and I had some small symptoms creeping up throughout university. Um, when I went for in my first year of university to get help, they sent me for blood work. It came back fine, and they basically sort of sent me out the door saying focus on the future. So that's what I did through university. I focused on the future, and at the time I didn't really know how you do that, but anyway, that's what I did. It was a little confusing, but the disease it's another person asked for my experience with in the prodromal phase of schizophrenia in the early years before the disease really hits. So I'll make another video after this talking about that. So um, the so for my recovery, I never had any problems with substance abuse. I was very lucky that way. I've never smoked or drank anything. I did drink a little bit in like early university. I only drank like 6 or 7 times, and then I had enough of that. I just drank some beer, and that was it. I don't like the taste of beer. I've never had anything. I've never had a glass of wine. I've never even had coffee. Never done any drugs. Never smoked. I was just very lucky that way, and because I know it's a real problem for so many people. Plus, when you have substance abuse and mental illness, it can make things a lot tougher. So, very lucky that way. I never had any hallucinations. 75% of people with schizophrenia hallucinate. I never did. Again, very lucky that way. I did have other psychosis things going on, and those are difficult. I had depression and anxiety along with schizophrenia. So, the early, I got on a medication. They tried in the hospital, the psych ward in 1994 when I was 22. They tried me on 6 or 7 of the 1960s older drugs, the antipsychotics, for a week or two each, a couple weeks each maybe, and none of them worked for me. And then they tried me on a new drug. It's risperidol or risperidone, and it was new in 1994, and it's a pretty common drug ever since. And after a week or two of being on it, they asked me, "Do you notice any changes?" And I said yes. And I noticed a small change. And for the next few years or so, I until through my whole recovery, which took about 27 years, I noticed an improvement once a week for like 27 years. From 94 to 2012, I noticed an improvement once a week. And from 2012 till just recently, I noticed an improvement sometimes once a day, sometimes twice a day, a lot more frequently. And it was funny, just not well, funny, weird, really. It's the first few years or so of my recovery. I lived in a group home, and during that time, the when I had an improvement, like a weekly improvement, this is the weird part of it. It usually happened on a Wednesday, sometimes Tuesday, sometimes Thursday, but usually Wednesday. And it would last for 20 or 30 minutes. And I just have a lightening of pain. I'd be less heavy hearted, more lighthearted. I'd feel just a little bit less painful. I'd feel a little bit happier, sort of thing, but just slightly. And at the same time, I would have more clarity of thought. I could think a little bit clearer. I'd have sort of just think a bit better. And then after 30, 20 or 30 minutes, it would go away. But they kept building on each other week by week, week by week, week by week over years. I would have these weekly improvements. And the first few years, they would happen like Wednesday or Tuesday or Thursday. For the first few years or so, I can't really remember. But after that, they would just happen more randomly throughout the week. I just thought it was weird. Even at the time, I thought, man, this is weird. It's usually on a Wednesday. That's a strange. Anyway, yeah. So uh, that's. I read a book called The Survivor. What Doesn't Kill Us by Stephen Joseph. Maybe in 2010 or 2012 or so. I think 2010, and it talked about PTS, post-traumatic growth, and they said that the way to get post-traumatic growth is through reflective rumination. There's a downward spiral kind of rumination, and it's not productive. 20 years later, someone can still have problems with alcohol or depression. Their family could have left them, no job, that sort of thing, just in a real in a really bad place. But there's a productive kind of rumination, and they didn't tell me that in the hospital when I was first diagnosed. They said, Matthew, keep busy, don't ruminate, don't sit there and ruminate. So that's what I did. I did that for until about what was it, 2002, I guess, yeah. And I said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I need to just sit here and think or ruminate. So I was defying doctor's orders, but that's what I did. I just had an overwhelming compulsion to just sit there and think and try to sort things through in my head because it's just I couldn't. It was hard to organize my thoughts. There's a part of my brain, and I've heard other people with schizophrenia say the same thing. Part of your brain ticks along just fine. It makes a plan for the day or some sort of plan, or you're thinking, what should I do right now? Should I go for a walk? Should I have a slice of pizza? Should I go back to school? You could have big thoughts like that. But the bulk of your brain, and it's just so loud, and it just takes over. It overrides all those thoughts, and it's kind of like shouting into a hurricane. You can have, when you're healthy, like I was the first 20 or so years of my life, I would have a nice peaceful voice in my head most of the time. It's, Matthew, don't worry about stuff. It's no big deal. It's a nice day. Go out and enjoy it and just have some fun. Have fun in life. And you'd think about things through the day and, oh, what do I need to do now? But it's a peaceful thought. There's no background noise. But with the disease, I feel like I'm shouting into a hurricane. I just bombarded by audio, visual stimuli. It wasn't really. I didn't have to plug my ears. I didn't see anything that wasn't there. I never hallucinated. But it just felt somehow that there's just a lot going on. It's more a feeling more than anything else. Just a lot going on, very confusing, and yeah, it's disoriented. I couldn't really place geospatially where things were in my that's one of the things that came back to me was my vision. It was just geospatially. I can get into this in another video, and I've talked about it in some videos I think too. But I want to talk more about my recovery and things I did to get better in this. But the thing with the rumination, I with reflective rumination, it's a constructive putting pieces of the puzzle back together again, and that's what they say you do to get post-traumatic growth. So I never had PTSD. I but there was I was essentially using this process unbeknownst to me until I read this book about called "What Doesn't Kill Us" by Stephen Joseph, and it's it's really helped me. It's helped me sort through things in my head. And they say with post traumatic growth, they say PTSD. It doesn't have to be from physical trauma. It can be from, excuse me, emotional trauma, and it's they say the PTSD can come from what they call a seismic event in your life, where your views of the world are shattered. We all have worldviews. You go through your day expecting things to be the way they are. That's just the way the world is. Everyone has different worldviews, and when those are shattered, like I believe mine was, you could argue. I don't really know. This is where it just gets very muddy and fuzzy in my head, and I'll probably never know how this works in my head. But I was trying to sort through things and organize things in my head, like the organization was gone in my brain, and it was hard to classify things into categories. And I just felt like it was like reading a book with all the words in the book mixed up, out of order, totally out of order. There's some, it's just, that's what my thoughts were like. And slowly over years and years, I tried to make that book in my head, sorting through all the words, you could say as a rough analogy, and putting them all in order. And that's what my thoughts are like today. I get to have clear thoughts. I mean, my thoughts aren't always the best. I get stressed sometimes, or angry and whatnot, or frustrated, or whatever. We all, healthy people, get like that too. And so they're not the best. But yeah, it's I just have more of a clear uh, line train of thoughts in my head now, which is phenomenal. So appreciative of that. And so with this worldview thing, when your worldviews are shattered, they say it's like a vase that's shattered on the floor. You try to you can pick up the pieces and glue them back together again, and you can go back to your original worldviews, but there's no growth. You can leave the vase shattered on the floor, and that's where you get like the negative downward spiral, negative rumination, where your life can be awful, like 20 years later or whatever. And but where you get the growth is you glue the pieces of the vase back together again, but you incorporate your trauma into it. You make a brand new vase. That's where you get the growth. That's where people say, I feel better than ever, even though they've gone through horrible things. As they've done this reflective rumination, they've processed and thought about what they went through, how they grew, how they became stronger, and they enjoy life better. They are more confident. They have better relationships with people, deeper, more meaningful relationships. They're not as scared to bring up topics with people. They say, look, let's talk about this, and it's not a big deal. Whereas when you are less confident and not as strong, you might be more shy to bring up a topic like that with somebody. Um, anyway, so that's one thing I did, was reflective rumination. I also read a ton of books. I read books. There's not a ton of books on schizophrenia. There are more as the years go on. In 1994, there weren't a ton of books on it, but there were some. And the bulk of what I did for reading was just general mental health tips. And these are things that anybody can learn. I mean, you take your average person, your average healthy person, and say they want to become an Olympic athlete. Well, Olympic athletes have written books on how to get the mindset of an Olympic athlete, how to think better, how to think more confidently, how to think more, to give you more discipline, to make you follow through on your habits. There are books written, they're in your libraries, they've been around for decades, on how to think like an Olympic athlete. Elite soldiers have written books on how to get the confidence of an elite soldier. One of my top books that I've read is Mark Devine's Unbeatable Mind. He's got other books too, but he's a Navy SEAL and he creates and trains Navy SEALs, and he gives away his secrets in his books for like $20 or for free in your library. It's wonderful. So I read those kinds of books. Not there. So there are ways to. We all have thoughts. Everyone has thoughts, whether you're mentally ill or not. And if you're not if you're not mentally ill, you can and you just have normal healthy thoughts, you can make those healthy thoughts healthier. Just a sec here. That's a whole field of positive psychology. Positive psychology is when they say you can take a healthy person and make them healthier. You can take a happy person and make them happier. That's positive psychology. Instead of because they said positive psychology was made in the 90s, and before then they said psychiatry basically made miserable people less miserable. They brought them up to like neutral. They didn't go into the positive side, and so yeah, that's a lot of the books I was reading, and on just how to get better thought patterns, like of Navy SEALs or Olympic athletes. And there's tons of books out there on books on people skills. A lot of our stress is caused by the people in our lives, and if you can become less stressed by the people in your lives and just let it roll off your back more, that can just let you. It helps. I just think everything helps, and so I encourage people to everyone, whether you're mentally ill or not, or have schizophrenia or not, to read books on this mindset, on how to think better. There's tons of books out there, tons of books, and a lot of the information's out there for free. So that's one thing I did. I walked in the early years. I walked a lot, and I've heard other people with schizophrenia say, or someone who knows schizophrenia say he or she walks a lot, and I did. It was I could do five things that decreased the pain just a little bit. One was walking, one was watching TV or movies or whatever, reading books, listening to music, and just sitting there or lying down doing nothing. Those five things I could do, and they brought down the pain just a little bit. So everything else was just stressful for me, and so I did some volunteer work for a year or two when I was in the group home, and after about 3 or 4 years, I said, you know what, I think I might want to try a job. It was a mental health funded job that was basic data entry and filing. It was I don't really like data entry or filing. I find it kind of boring, but it was one of the very few jobs I thought I might actually be able to do. And I had an engineering degree. I got most of that before I got too sick with schizophrenia, but I wasn't going to use it. I said I just don't have the strength to do that. So I stuck with data entry, and I found a place that said, yes, you can come in and do some data entry for us. I stayed there for about 20 years, and yeah, so I showed up to work. I did not want to go to work. I did not want to get out of bed in the morning. It was so difficult to do things, but somehow I got things done. I bought a house in, I guess, when I was maybe in my early 30s, and I bought a car. I bought a number of cars over the years. Well, just one at a time. I didn't have 15 cars parked in the driveway. And anyway, so I did things, and that's one thing I encourage people to do is even though you're thinking, I don't want to have to do this, I don't have to go to school, I don't have to go to work. I mean, even I flew to Vancouver 4 times throughout my recovery, and yes, I never felt good when I was out there. I was out there thinking, all I really want to do right now is just lie in bed or sit on the couch. And I'm like, oh, do I have to go and explore Vancouver? I mean, ideally, yes, I would love that, but when you're depressed, you don't want to do anything. But I did it anyway. I got up and I did stuff when I was out in Vancouver. I went out to Vancouver in the first place. And I just want to tell people that even though these things, even when you're doing them, they may seem you're not able to enjoy them fully, and you think, oh, I'm depressed, or I've got schizophrenia, and I'm just out here, and you're depressed about your life. But you're doing it anyway. You're doing it anyway, and that's what I want to tell people is that even though at the time it may not seem like fun, but you're doing it anyway, and it registers somewhere inside you. It registers. You don't feel it registering at the time. Maybe you do, but for me, it didn't feel like it was really registering. But as the years went on, I could look back and say, you know what, Matthew, I did that. I went to a job. I went and bought groceries for myself every day. Not every day. I cooked meals for myself every day. I did that. I called friends. I organized, I went to my hometown on weekends to visit my friends there. I, I did things. I tied my shoes. I got dressed. I had a shower. I, watched a movie. I went for a run or went to the gym. Or I played ultimate frisbee for a number of years in the early 2000s. And I did stuff, and it registers, and it all helps. It's it's I think it's very important to do that. You could say, you know what, I'm just going to sit at home and give up, and I really encourage you not to do that. It's it's tough, but you can do it. Navy SEALs, like Mark Devine says in his book Unbeatable Mind, Navy SEALs are capable of 20 times more than they think they are. And he teaches new trainees for Navy SEALs that, and I feel like I was tested that way. I had no idea I could do all the things I did do over many years. When this disease first hit me, I had no idea I could do all that. But look at me now. It's years later, and I can look back and say I did all that. Yes, it was not fun. The book, The Survivor Personality by Al Siebert. These books are on my list of best mental health tips on my website too, mindaid.ca. The Survivor Personality, he says, Survivors who go through horrible things and thrive on the other side once they're through them, this is what they say. They say, that was the worst thing I have ever been through, and I would never, ever, ever, ever want to go through that again. But that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. They get the growth from it, they learn from it. And that is a tough thing to do. I read that book, The Survivor Personality, like 2010 or so, and I saw that line in there, people saying that was the best thing that could have ever have happened to me. So I've known that. But to actually feel that, feel, yes, I'm so happy for the knowledge of the experience. I'm not happy for the experience, but I'm happy for what I've learned from the experience. And that's something I'm still working on. My symptoms stopped in 2021, February of 2021. My symptoms stopped, and for a year or so after that, I was in sort of a shock phase, a processing phase, a different kind of processing, not really reflective rumination. I had peace and contentment, and I got to think of things as having happened in the past. I'd sit there and think, wow, did I just go through that? Just go through that 20 plus years of schizophrenia? And that's what I've been doing. The last, I don't know, so many months, it's 2023 now, and I've got more energy, I've got more motivation, I'm more productive, and it's still not perfect. I'm not a hustle 24/7 round the clock, go, go, go person right now. I may not ever be. And for a lot of people, it's not good to be that way. The YouTuber Sunny Lenarduzzi talks about that, the hustle culture, and how it almost killed her with her health of hustling too much, of just working too much. So I want to keep taking breaks throughout my life. Anyway, I took breaks. I took a lot of breaks. It was there's an old saying, I don't know where it came from, but it said the secret of life is to put down your burden every so often, take a break, pick it back up, and keep moving. They said that, and that had nothing. That was an old quote, probably from hundreds of years ago, and it had nothing to do with mental illness. That's a quote for everybody. Just take a break, and so that's what I did. I would often I'd have to just sit there, lie down for a little bit, and then get up and keep going. I did that throughout a lot of my recovery. Listening to music, I could not listen to music the first year except for classical music, and I'm not really a huge classical music fan. I enjoy it, but I prefer to listen to other music. I'm more pop and rock. The second year of my recovery, I could listen to country music. I don't mind it. Some country I really like, but it's not my biggest genre. And then probably my third year or so of my recovery, I was starting to be able to listen to pop and rock. Um, it was difficult for me. It agitated me, but I wanted to listen to it because I like it. Um, anyway, so I've kept listening to it. Now I listen to pop and rock, and I just go nuts for it. I'm just crazy about my music. I absolutely love it. I love getting up and dancing and having fun, and it's the highlight of my day listening to music. It makes me feel like $1,000,000, and it took me a long time to get there. But you can do this. I want to offer people hope with the disease. The disease, uh, it can be tough in the beginning, and but what I didn't know in the first part, like the early years or so of my disease, is that the pain can lessen, and it may not go away entirely, but the pain can lessen and allow you to carry on longer than you thought. It can allow you to carry on for years longer than you thought. The pain in the beginning can be intense, and you may think, I don't know how I can do this, but it can lessen, and it won't. There's a chance it won't lessen. It won't last for years and years and years or decades. There's also an article by, I forget who it's by, the head of the Schizophrenia Society of Canada told me about it. It's online. I went looking for it recently and couldn't find it, but it's called The Seven Myths of Schizophrenia. One of the myths is that schizophrenia is with you for life. Schizophrenia can often leave, the article said, in midlife. I don't know when that would be, 40s, 50s maybe. And you could argue that that's what the disease what the disease is doing with me. It's leaving in my, I'm 51 now. All I know is that I had an overwhelming desire to think, just sit there and think and try to sort through things in my head. And I I don't. It's a chicken and egg thing. Was just the disease moving out on its own, or did my actions help make the disease leave? I don't know. Both maybe. Who knows? I'll never have an answer for that. But I encourage you to fight this disease, to do things, to go out there and try to do things you enjoy, and read books or whatever you like, podcasts, um, watching YouTube videos, whatever, however you like to learn and take in information. Learn what other people have done to improve their thoughts, better thought patterns. Your mind can play tricks on you, take you down rabbit holes that aren't very good. And if you know what those rabbit holes are, because we aren't taught that in school, they can help you just avoid, step over those rabbit holes and move on to healthier thoughts, more productive. And for diet, I tried to eat well. It's hard in North America to eat well. I tried. I'm not the best eater. I'm There's a book called Memory Rescue by Dr. Daniel Amen. He's a leading brain scientist in the States. The book's about dementia and memory, but one of the sentences in the book is he says some of the healthiest brain scans he's seen, because he scans people's brains, thousands of brains. He says some of the healthiest brain scans he's seen, and I'm assuming he's talking about general mental health, not brain scans of people with dementia. The way he wrote it, I'm assuming it's just general mental health. I could be wrong, but this is what I'm assuming. He says is people who've taken ginkgo biloba, and I started taking that a few years ago. I'm not a medical professional. I'm The only official certification I have is an engineering degree. So read this with some skepticism, or listen to this, watch this with some skepticism. But I've taken ginkgo biloba in recent years. It's way too late in my recovery to see if that had any effect on me, because I wasn't taking it for most of my recovery. But that might be something you want to look into. You have to read the label on that. There's a element with ginkgo biloba that deals with blood thinning. If you've got problems that way, just read the label on it. It's not for everybody. I take it, and I've been taking it for a few years now, and I'm fine. So, and many other people take it and they're fine. So that is one supplement. Yeah. Dr. Daniel Amen also recommends for general mental health in his other books about general mental health is like fish oil. You can get omega-3 plant-based oil or algae-based oil or krill oil. There's different ways depending on what your diet types are like. But fish oil or omega-3s of some kind, and a multivitamin. That's what he recommends, and some vitamin D. I think he recommends 2,000 IU, UI, whatever it is, of vitamin D. And I could be wrong on that. Anyway, so those are things I take: multivitamin, fish oil, or omega-3 of some sort, and some vitamin D and ginkgo biloba. That's what I try to take. And anyway, it's there's lots of things you can do for your brain, and it can be overwhelming. So many different things you can do, and it can make you feel like I'm not doing anything. I'm just doing a few things, and there's so much I'm not doing. But as long as you're doing something that works for you, there's no way you can do everything. Like, for example, meditation. I've tried it. I never really had the discipline to do it, and I never really got into it, but that's something that could help you. It's helped millions of people. And just find something that works for you, something that you can do. Exercise, walking is one of the best bangs for your buck. Just to get extra blood flow through your brain is incredible. There's foods you can look up, and I'm not a food expert. I know Dr. Daniel Amen said beets are good for your health. I really crave beets. I get pickled beets. They're easy. You don't have to cook them. Just eat them. They come in a jar in the store. They're great and easy to do. I love them. I don't know if I love them because I've had brain health issues and my brain's craving them. I don't know. No idea. But I enjoy them. Yeah, diet's a whole another thing that I don't talk about a whole lot because I'm not really an expert in that. I have I have read though that I have read that dark leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous is like broccoli or cauliflower or Brussels sprouts. Those two, dark leafy greens and cruciferous vegetables, are very good for brain health. So anyway, that's all I'll say about that. Sugar. There's a book. Forget the guy's name, but he talks about niacin And out niacin is good for people for brain health and schizophrenia. And sugar is really, he said sugar is very bad for schizophrenia. So it's hard to eliminate sugar. There is covert sugar and overt sugar. Covert is things like sugar in bread. I saw a couple slices of raisin bread the other day that had like 17 grams of sugar in two slices. That's a lot of sugar. The allowable or the recommended maximum amount of sugar in it's probably different for different countries, but I'm in Canada. It's roughly around 30, 34 grams of sugar per day, whether you're male or female. And so look at food labels, see, try to notice how much sugar you're eating, and try to limit it to under 30 or 34 grams of sugar. It's roughly 30 or 34, something like that. And it's amazing how much sugar can add up. Overt sugars like cakes, cookies, brownies, try to avoid those. The overt sugar is more difficult. It's hidden. Yogurt. Try to. I love yogurt, and try to look at food labels. And for yogurt, try to find yogurt that has less sugar in it. They're making more brands now with less sugar, which is great. Some yogurt has a lot of sugar in it. So, yeah, mustard is if you have hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever, mustard on whatever. Ketchup has a lot of sugar. Mustard doesn't. Mustard still doesn't have any sugar in it. Years, even in 2023, it doesn't have any sugar in it. So that's a condiment you could put on things with no sugar. So that's what if I do have a hamburger or something, that's what I opt for is mustard. So anyway, that's a bit more specific, but um, yeah, exercise. There is there's a book, and again I forget the guy's name. He said, and I haven't found this anywhere else. He said the fountain of youth is human growth hormone, which can be made by you naturally when you do high intensity exercise. High intensity exercise like sprints or weightlifting, anything where you're taking your body to the max, it builds human growth hormone, which they say is the fountain of youth. And I'm not an expert, I'm not a fitness expert, but it's something to think about. They say sprinting, for example, many people sprint as a kid, but as adults, they never do it again. I myself love sprinting. I absolutely love sprinting. And when I'm running and I'm trying to move my arms faster and my legs faster and I can't, I say, try to move them faster, Matthew, and I can't do it. I'm maxed out, and I love that feeling of maxed out. Or lifting weights, push-ups, sit-ups. I've got my convenient workout. I call it the convenient workout. If you go on my Medium page, it's medium.com. It's a writing platform I use. And there's an article there called The Convenient Workout by Matthew Dixon. And I love it. It's just 4 exercises, body weight exercises, and I do them whenever I want. It helps to get them into your day easier. I just do them one at a time. I don't have to change into gym clothes, don't have to shower afterwards, and I love it. I've built a bit of muscle on me. It's push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, and squats, basically. It works most of your major muscles, and I love doing that exercise, that routine. So yeah, it's get out for a walk, go for a run, move your body, go for a bike ride, get some blood flow through your brain, and stay hopeful. There's a book by Catherine Goetsk, and the link again is on my list of best mental health tips. And she says that hope is a skill, and it can be learned, and it can be improved. She says she teaches people how to be hopeful, and the book is called The Biggest Little Book of Hope, I think. And Catherine Goetz, Goetzke is her last name, and I really recommend that. I haven't read it yet, but I want to read it. It's on my list to read, and yeah, that's one I think that would be wonderful for people. How to learn how to be hopeful. It's hope is so important, and I know there are days. I know you can have bad days. I've had bad days, and I'm in bad moments, bad minutes, bad hours, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get through this? Seriously, how am I going to get through this? It seems like there's no way out, but there is. You just have to keep waiting. There are ways out, and there's a saying: you have gotten through 100% of every single one of your bad days, every one of your bad moments, every one of your bad minutes and hours, you've gone through every single one of them. Every single one. And you will keep getting through them. I call it hope beyond hope. When you've lost hope and you think there's just, I can't do this anymore, there's no hope for me, other things will keep you here. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it whatever you want, luck, chance, fate, the universe. There are things keeping you here. And when you've lost hope, there is hope beyond hope. Hope that's keeping you here when you can't hope for yourself. And we don't know what tomorrow brings. We don't. We have no idea what the future holds for us tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day. We don't know what scientific discoveries they'll make. They've found cures for so many things, and even maybe not cures, but also just treatments for symptoms. They keep finding things, and they will continue to keep finding things to improve your mental health, your schizophrenia. And you don't know that. You can sit here and think, like I did for many years, depressed, they'll never find a cure. This is the way I'll be for the rest of my life. Your thoughts will tell you that, but they're not your thoughts. They're the disease's thoughts, and they put them into your head. It makes these chemicals fire that tells these thoughts for you, and they're not your own. Your thoughts are not your own. And it's I'm telling this because you might not be able to think this for yourself, so I want to tell you because someone has to say it. You don't know what tomorrow brings. You don't. There are so many things that will be discovered. Think of all the things that were discovered in the last 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. It'll be the same thing for the next 10 years, the next 5 years. This year they will discover stuff. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people working on this for you. There are armies of people working on this for you. And we need more. We need more people helping with mental health for sure. But there are already, it's not like not one single person is working on mental health in the world. It's not like that. Yes, we talk about our mental health system. It needs a lot of work. But we do have a partial mental health system. We do. And there are people working on this for you because they want to get you better. This is their life's work. There are people wanting to get you better. They're not giving up on you. They go to work every day. They go to the lab. They do whatever. They're making apps to help with your mental health. All sorts of things. And they're doing that for you because you matter. There are so many things that will be discovered. On my list of best mental health tips on my website, minday.ca, there are some schizophrenia resources, avatar therapy. I should have mentioned this earlier. Avatar therapy is a way to get rid of your hallucinations. It's a way of standing up to them, saying, you're not going to do that to me, you're not going to run me. And you take charge of your hallucinations, and they can leave in a matter of weeks. And it doesn't work for everybody. It works partially for some people. It's an avatar therapy. There's a computer, and you doctor up an avatar on the screen, and that represents your hallucinations. There's a therapist in another room. You can't see them, and they talk to you through the avatar on your screen, and they get you through the therapist to stand up to your hallucinations and say, "You're not going to run me anymore." I mentioned this to a guy I know locally. He said, "Matthew, thank you so much for telling me about avatar therapy. I didn't know about it. I decided recently," he said, "to stand up to my hallucinations. My mom was in the next room. She didn't know what I was doing. She was a bit concerned, but when she found out what I was doing, she said, okay." He said it helped. My hallucinations lessened by standing up to them. It sounds too good to be true, but it's a thing, and it works. It works well for some people, partially for others. And it's something definitely to try. It's I just think that'd be phenomenal, and I wish, please tell that with other people. There's a link on my website for a clinic in Montreal, Canada, to get avatar therapy, and there might be one in the States, there might be one in England or the UK somewhere, but it's a thing. It's been around for a number of years now, so please check that out. Lauren Kennedy, her YouTube channel, Living Well with Schizophrenia, is chock full of stuff to help you get better with schizophrenia. She has schizophrenia, and I'm really impressed with her videos. They're professional, entertaining, well done. Really enjoy her channel. Lauren Kennedy, and she's in Alberta, Canada. Students with Psychosis, they it's a non-profit. They have resources for students with psychosis or schizophrenia. Please check them out. Cecilia McGow started that. She has a TED Talk called "I Am Not a Monster, Schizophrenia." We need to be talking more about schizophrenia. Please share this video. It's if you want. It's to get more people talking about this, so it's not in the shadows. To show people it's okay to talk about schizophrenia in public. We can do this. We can talk about this. We don't have to whisper it behind closed doors, like I did and millions of others of us did for years. And I thought the other day, make a tagline, Matthew, for show love for someone with schizophrenia. Show some love for people with schizophrenia. Some tagline like that to show us, to give us empathy, compassion for what we're doing, because we're warriors. People with mental illness are warriors. People with schizophrenia are warriors. We're battling this, and we deserve respect and admiration, and people should be putting us on pedestals for what we're doing. I mean, that might be arrogant, but we we shouldn't be looked down upon and neglected, put behind closed doors, unattended to, unseen, unheard, unrecognized, unacknowledged. It shouldn't be that. We need to be loved, cared for. We have personalities, different personalities, all of us. We have dreams, hopes, abilities, talents, skills. We have all that stuff. And people need to see that and not just see somebody with schizophrenia who they want to shun. Keep being a light, keep fighting for your own recovery. And by the way, your recovery is an amazing accomplishment. I know there's a lot of pressure these days to help other people with mental illness, to be an advocate, whatnot, to have a platform. You may not be able to do that, and that is so fine. That is totally fine. Your recovery is an amazing accomplishment. And if all you can do today is get up out of bed and sit and watch TV, or even just lie in bed, wow. Congratulations for another day you've conquered. Keep going. You're a warrior. Keep going. You may think, oh, I'm just lying here in bed. I can't do anything. No, 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 no. Another day under your belt. Another day you've survived. Awesome. You matter. Keep fighting.